Hello, I'm Dr. Pierre Simon, and it's wonderful being back with you once again. We've been talking about the Jezebel-Narcissist in this series, and I want to remind you that at New Horizons Institute of Counseling, we're for healing, peace, and harmony. We're there to help you to do better, feel better, grow, and in Christian counseling, discipleship is part of counseling. As we grow, we are being discipled. We have Christians who come into counseling. We have non-Christians. We have those of other faiths. And they come in because they're able to recognize that they can trust us and that we'll give them the truth without a spin. And I hope that's been helpful, as you've noticed that throughout these series that we've been doing on YouTube. Well, mind games. We've been concentrating on the mind games of the Jezebel-Narcissist in helping you to identify the narcissist in your life. And perhaps identify a few of those traits in you that you'd like to get rid of. I have several people that have contacted me and said, I didn't even know I was doing those things, and I'm going to change. I'm going to work on it, and now I understand why I've been having trouble with others or with relationships or at work. These are things that doesn't mean because you have some of these characteristics you're a terrible, awful person. It means you need to rub off those rough edges. You need to look at yourself and say, hey, where can I improve now? Because I want to be better. I want to do better. And certainly as a believer in faith-based counseling, we want to grow closer to God. And I think when we can identify those little things, we can work on them. But it's most important to identify it. It's like the alcoholic who doesn't believe there's anything wrong with them. They're in denial. They believe their lies so much, so often, so frequently, I should say, then, well, nothing wrong with me, they say. It's you. You're the problem. But it's not until they hit that bottom and recognize, oh, wait a minute, there must be something wrong. I've made a mess of my life. I need to get help. And they turn to God for that help. They surrender their will, and now they're willing to let go. And that's 65% of the recovery battle, is just coming out of denial and recognizing and acknowledging there's a problem. In personality, it's no different. In getting along with others, it's no different. 65% of going forward and improving yourself is recognizing something needs improving, and then the willingness to carry it out. So we've been focusing on these mind games of the Jezebel-Narcissist, and today we're focusing on the passive-aggressive mind games of the Jezebel. You know, passive aggressiveness is something that probably we all do a little bit of, especially when we're teenagers, adolescents. With our narcissism, we go through that phase of narcissism, idealism, and nobody's going to tell me what to do, and I'm my own person, and then that wears off for most people, and they go back to, or they grow to that place in life where they're now more mature and handling things in a more mature fashion. So passive-aggressive mind games, we might define it as personality traits of indirect communication or behaviors displaying resistance and negativity in a disguising way. You know, people are negative and resistant openly and outwardly and all that, but the passive-aggressive tends to do it under the table. It's hard to tell sometimes that they are resisting you, or that they're coming against you in some manner, or they don't want to do what they think you want them to do. So some of the signs of passive aggression in mind games might be resentment and opposition to the expectations of others. Now, sometimes I'll have a little resentment when I recognize someone is trying to control me. Sometimes I might have someone who's telling me how to counsel, or who is telling me what I should do next. And I'll think, yeah, where's that coming from? Yeah. But then I know some people that they just are being helpful. They're trying to help. They're trying to encourage on this or that, and it doesn't bother me. But when I recognize there's some passive aggressive mind games going on, well, okay, then I might get a little resentful, but I have to hold that back, forgive, let it go, and recognize the source that it's coming out of is woundedness, fear. You might say a need to survive, because that's what Jezebel-Narcissists are so afraid of. They're afraid of not surviving, of not being in control, of that exposure to others, of their inadequacies, their sensitivities, their weaknesses on the inside. They don't want anybody to see that, as we've explained in previous episodes. So resentment and opposition builds with passive-aggressive mind games. Typically, if you have children and they're going to school, and there's passive aggressiveness oftentimes because you're the parent, you're in control, and they know that, so they go around the corner to disengage with something you're wanting them to do. So yeah, I'll take out the garbage, but they don't take it out. Or yeah, I'll do my homework, or yeah, I even did my homework, but they may not have, or they may have just done it partially so they could say, yes, I did my homework. Or the teacher says, well, your son or daughter is, we just like them so much, and they're doing this and that, but their grades, they have a much higher potential. They could do better. They just don't seem to be applying themselves. Well, sometimes it's okay, just kind of normal, but sometimes there's passive aggressiveness going on there where, well, I don't have to do this, or I'm being told I have to do this, so I'm not going to do this. I'm in control. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. And certainly if youth is being bullied at home, they're going to go to school and bully, but they're also going to go to school and, I can control this by not doing this, or not studying enough, or this or that. Now I'm in control. Now I feel better about myself. Unfortunately, they're sabotaging themselves through their experience. Procrastination is another passive-aggressive mind game, putting something off. Now, procrastination is you might say, a normal characteristic with those who are very independent and strong-minded. They don't want to make mistakes, and if they're not sure about something, they'll tend to put it off until they get enough information to be able to make that decision or carry through with something they need to do. And others might see that as procrastination, but of course they're seeing it as, I don't have enough information yet to make the right decision, because there's a fear of the unknown with those individuals, and that fear of the unknown fears making a mistake or looking foolish if they make that mistake. And so they'll tend to procrastinate. But that's kind of normal. What we're talking about here with procrastination is passive-aggressive mind games. Procrastination is frequent, often, and for, at times, unnecessary reasons. They just do it. Intentional mistakes. They think they can make me do this, and they're not paying me enough, and I deserve more. Well, I'm just going to skip over this part that I'm supposed to do, or I don't need to read all this. Or, hey, what about what about that? Somebody else can do it. It's intentional. And it's intentional for the purpose of saying, I'm in control here. I don't think it's important, so therefore I'm going to not do it, or I'm going to make a mistake, sabotaging as a result. Cynical, sullen, or hostile attitudes. Cynical, that they're just kind of negative. So negativity is another characteristic of passive-aggressive mindsets, mind games. You have that everything kind of, they have the dark glasses and everything is kind of negative, and they look for faults. They enjoy finding fault. So if you say something wrong, a little mistake or something like that, they catch you on it right away. And that gives them joy when they catch you on it, on something like that, which creates problems in relationships after a while when the other is recognizing, wow, this is going on too often here. Frequent complaints from the passive-aggressive mind game individual. They're just constantly complaining. They're always looking for something to disagree with, because that gives them power. But they can't do it openly because that could be trouble. They may feel inferior in some way. They may feel unsafe to openly rebel, so to speak. So they do it in an indirect fashion. Some of the signs that we see with all that is fear of intimacy, because typically the passive-aggressive individual tends to fear getting too close. In fact, many times what they've done is they've detached emotionally early in life. Perhaps they had an abusive parent, or traumatized, or maybe they had a narcissistic parent, and they supplied the needs for that parent, but they were never allowed to build their own identity, and they never felt strong enough to come against that parent or rebel against the parent for one reason or another, or that might be fear of the severe punishment that comes from a narcissistic parent, the going overboard with punishment and consequences. So they turn everything inward. Typically, as kids, when we get angry, we blow up, we express the anger, we vent it. But if you have a narcissistic parent, or let's say an unsafe parent, it might not be safe to be able to express. So when you can't vent, the anger turns inward, and it turns into negativity, depression, turns into seeing things from a dark side rather than from the light. And so fear of intimacy occurs. If I get too close, I'm going to be hurt, so I detach. So emotionally, they detach with those bonding emotions that are so important in our lives. Though they're not there anymore. They've closed them off. They've detached them from themselves. So they have some basic emotion, glad, sad, good, bad, those emotions of feeling good or feeling bad, but it's this all or nothing, what occurs there. It's back and forth. Everything in between is missing. And that in between is what draws us closer to each other and helps us to bond. They have trouble with that. So as adults, they become more passive-aggressive to stay safer. Evading problems. Passive-aggressive mind games is, I'm not gonna take out the garbage, so I'm gonna leave early this morning and not say anything, or I'm going to leave my clothes on the floor and just get out of here before my wife wakes up. or many other things. There's just a few I'm thinking of. Probably because sometimes I might do that. Making excuses. They have an excuse for everything. Now, remember, we're talking about passive-aggressive mind games, and in a moment I'm going to explain there's a difference there with this type of Jezebel-Narcissist compared to the obvious, the overt, the assertive and aggressive Jezebel-Narcissist. Blaming is another mind game that is more passive-aggressive. Fear of competition. They kind of shy away from that, and so what happens? They cheat. Passive-aggressive individuals cheat a lot. They play the victim. They seethe with anger. So remember, they're not allowed to express that anger when they're young. It's not safe. That anger gets turned inward. And perhaps later in life, they're not allowed to be genuine in venting how they feel. They turn it inward. It becomes anger. And that internal anger boils. It seethes. It's always there in some fashion. But they hide it. They disguise it so you can't see it. So they may have a smile on their face. They may say they like this, but really they don't. And with that, they ferment anger, not only on the inside, but they ferment it outward. They cause other people to become angry in their indirect behavior, their passive-aggressive words or behavior, the mind games that they carry out, which upset their partners or their friends or their co-workers or their bosses or the teacher. So what happens? Others get angry back. So they're fermenting anger. Faking compliance. Yeah, I'll do that. Well, yes, okay, I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. But down deep, they don't think it's a good idea. But they're not going to expose that because they might be rejected, they might be in trouble, so they're going to say the opposite. So very often, you look for those individuals, whatever they're saying, the opposite might be more true than what they're telling you. Frequent lying. Gosh, that's one of the toughest things with passive-aggressive mind games is the frequent lying that occurs. And in some cases, compulsive lying, that is a forceful urge for no reason at all, they're lying. Well, you didn't have to lie that this water bottle was yours. That's okay, it's no big deal. But it just comes out of them. And with that, they start rumors. They just have to be able to feel in control, and they do it indirectly by doing things like lying, storytelling, rumor telling. I remember in the military, when we were in basic training, and you'd hear all these rumors going on, and the drill sergeant would say, in the military you're going to have a lot of rumors, so don't pay any attention to them. You're a fool if you pay attention to the rumors. So those of us that recognize, okay, we better listen to what the drill sergeant says, we start to hear those rumors and we don't take them seriously till we find out what is true, what is the right thing, and get it confirmed in some way. That's what the passive-aggressive will tend to do, spread the rumors. What happens? It makes them feel in control. It makes them feel powerful. And like the Jezebel-Narcissist, aggressive, assertive, they want to feel that way. So does the passive-aggressive Jezebel-Narcissist wants to feel that way. So they'll do it under the table in indirect ways. The covert Jezebel-Narcissist is where we see most passive-aggressive mind games. The overt, the assertive, aggressive Jezebel-Narcissist, they might play mind games, but they're going to do it openly. They're not necessarily going to do it under the table, because they want you to know they got you. They want you to know how smart they are. The passive-aggressive individual, being more covert, may not be as smart, as communicative as the partner Jezebel-Narcissist, who's assertive and aggressive and lets you know everything. So they have to do things indirectly under the table, so they're going to be tentative in their assertiveness. They're cunningly manipulative. They're non-confrontational. They're very self-protective. You know, the Jezebel-Narcissist of the assertive type is self-protective also, but the one who feels weaker in that regard, who's doing things indirectly, has a much greater fear of exposure, a much greater fear of being hurt or being seen as inadequate. So they have a stronger sense of self-protection. Highly vindictive is a good indicator of that strong self-protection that they have, because that vindication, that punishment, that vengeance that they have is very intense, and it chips away at you. Unlike the vindication or the vengeance of the more assertive Jezebel-Narcissist, it's wham bam, you know, but that covert, passive-aggressive narcissist, it's under that table, it's a little at a time, it's a little sabotaging here, a little sabotaging there, until things fall apart. And then you look back and you realize what happened. So they're secretive and dishonest, basically underhanded, and they feel more comfortable that way. It's part of their defense mechanism of splitting. Both the active covert, the overt and covert narcissist use the defense mechanism of splitting, but the covert passive-aggressive narcissist, they tend to use that splitting in a much more cunning way. And splitting is basically turning you against someone else or something else. In that way, they have more power against whatever it is, and they have made an allegiance with you so that they're on your side, and you're on their side. Now they feel more powerful, and then they go to the other person later when they need something, and they tell them bad things about you, forming a new allegiance there to get what they want from you, or to destroy you because they're angry because you said no to them. So splitting is all or nothing thinking. You're all good or you're all bad. If I need something from you, you're all good. If I don't need anything from you, you're all bad. You're useless. Why do I even have to talk to you? Yuck, that's no fun to be around. Reserved and inconspicuous attitudes. So they lay back, they don't stick their head above the crowd, and that makes it very difficult to recognize a passive-aggressive mind game going on, but a passive-aggressive Jezebel-Narcissist type. It's very hard. Sometimes you really have to get to know the person over a period of time and see the behavior and the results of the behavior. So it's like the Bible says, you'll know them by their fruit. Yeah, you'll know them by the results of their interactions with others, their behavior, and then it makes it clearer what's going on. They have a facade of modesty, so they seem humble, but really it's a facade, it's a fake front they're putting on. On the inside, there's no humility there. They want to express themselves and as that assertive and aggressive narcissist, but they have to do it indirectly. So they disguise their anger, their vengeance, their need for power and control by doing it humbly or meekly, making you think that's the way they are. But in fact, watch out, they're not that way. Smugness, they just kind of, got you. Yeah, and they're not going to tell you they got you, unlike the assertive, aggressive narcissist is going to tell you they got you. The passive-aggressive, the covert Jezebel-Narcissist is going to, they know it, and it makes them feel even stronger and more powerful because they know something you don't. Quiet superiority, passive-aggressive thoughts and behaviors, envy. Oh boy. If you're good at something, they're going to envy that, they're going to be jealous of it, and they're going to sabotage you somehow. They're going to use those passive-aggressive mind games to derail your success one way or another. Lack of empathy, well, we see that in both the overt, assertive Jezebel-Narcissist, but we also see it in the covert. And in fact, in the covert Jezebel-Narcissist, the passive-aggressive individual, sometimes you kind of think they're even worse at that lack of empathy, that understanding what the needs are of someone else. They just can't see it. It's not there. Often attaches to an overt Jezebel-Narcissist. So here's what I often see is we got two narcissists together. We have one that's more assertive, more aggressive, power and whatever else. When they found someone who's more passive, more aggressive, more passive-aggressive, but that passive-aggressive Jezebel-Narcissist is feeding the stronger one, and the stronger one feeds the other one back, and they become a team. And when you get two in a team like that, they're very strong. It's a strong team that's hard to come against, or it's hard to be around because one does it one way, the other does it another way. They're agreeing with each other on getting power and control over you, or over the company, or over the family, or over whatever it might be. Well, what are the empowering truths about all of this? In Jesus Christ the Messiah, the deepest parts of myself are exposed and made complete by the energizing power of God's Spirit. As a believer, and you may be in another faith, and whatever your beliefs are, you use those beliefs to empower yourself within to do right and be right. As a Christian, I have the help of the Holy Spirit to help empower me to do right and be right, to make those changes, but also to expose what needs to be changed inside of me, what needs to be improved inside of me. All these years as a Christian, I'm always working on something, and it's like, okay, well, nothing else to work on, and God points a finger and says, okay, now work on this. Oh, okay, and then you work on that. Now work on that. Oh man, it's never ending, because there's always something for you to improve upon in yourself, and that makes you a better person through life. I'm empowered to resist negativity by renewing my mind with thoughts that are godly and life-giving. The Jezebel-Narcissist, passive-aggressive, covert person is so negative They can't see brightness. They can't see light. They can't see goodness. They can only see what they don't have and what they want and how to get it. I have abundant encouragement and comfort with other genuine believers. I emphasize genuine believers. Even in the church, we have those who profess belief. We have those who are genuine in their beliefs, who have no factional motives or poor attitudes. So seek out those individuals that are that way. You'll enjoy that company much better than the other individuals who are constantly negative, who are constantly playing those mind games. Well, in Philippians 4:8, I was alluding to that a moment ago. Here's what the scripture says. Finally, believers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable and worthy of respect. So here the scripture is identifying, look for truth. Look for things that are honorable, respectful, those things that are of good report, those things that build you up, those things that make you feel good, those things that encourage you, those things that empower you in feeling like you've been added to, not taken away from. Whatever is right and confirmed by God's word, whatever is pure and wholesome, whatever is lovely and brings peace. Is there peace when you're around a Jezebel-Narcissist? No, there's not peace. You feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time. And by the end of the day, even if you've had a 1-hour encounter with one, you're worn out. You're drained, because that's what they do. They suck life out of you because they're constantly trying to better you or do something to get what they need from you. They're trying to draw you out to get their needs met. Well, you're worn out at the end of the day. If I have one person like that in the day, or sometimes I might be at the end of the day thinking, why am I so tired today? And I think back and, so-and-so was in the office today. That's why, that explains it. You might run into them at the grocery store, or you might have friends that might be that way, and you see them once in a while, and you just kind of, and you don't look forward to being around them in the future. But you're not quite sure what it is. You might think, it must be me, but it keeps occurring. Whatever is admirable and of good repute or good report. If there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think continually on these things. Think continually on these things. The Jezebel-Narcissist, passive-aggressive or not, thinks continually on the negative things, the things they don't have, the things they want, the things that they need to take. We're supposed to think on the good things continually. If we do that, what's it going to do to our minds? It's going to increase our brain matter, our white matter in the brain. I've explained this in previous episodes in talking about the brain. It's going to decrease the dark matter in the brain. We're going to get smarter over the years instead of duller, instead of having issues of various kinds. We're going to gain more insight, more understanding, more wisdom is going to come through the years as you add those good brain cells and stretch those pathways into healthy connections. Center your mind on them, on those good things, on those things that are worthy of praise, and implant them in your heart. I hope this was helpful for you today. God bless. If you liked the program, or if you got something out of it, please press the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be continuing in this series next time. So long.